Here are today's top news stories and why they matter. Uganda's parliament has passed the Ugandan People's Forces Amendment Bill 2025, a controversial bill which permits military tribunals to try civilians. Why does the story matter? The legislation has drawn protests from several Ugandans, especially opposition political parties, who say the move violates a Supreme Court ruling earlier this year which banned such trials. DW's Frank Yiga tells us how Ugandans are reacting to this passage.
Opposition members of parliament have resolved to fight back after the passage of this new military and political parties laws. The opposition wants to take legal action in court against the enactment of the Uganda People's Defense Forces UPDF bill. The leader of the opposition, Joel Senyonyi, said the processing of the two bills was rushed without adequate public consultation as required by the law. Here are some reactions from Ugandans to the bill's passage.
Previously, we've seen the military courts even trying cases that are baseless, that one would point at and think they are civil in nature, but people have been being pushed to military court. Now that they've tightened the grip on this whole law thing, I think more people are going to rot in jails, innocent civilians, let's say innocent and both innocent and not innocent, or guilty ones, but it's not going to make sense at the end of the day.
Worst of all in this bill, by the way, you realize that anyone who is even in the jurisdiction of a serving military officer, you're subject to this military law. And I think passing that bill with that clause in itself undermines the reality of even the soldiers having families.
Moving on, a former Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Augustin Matata Ponyo, has been sentenced to 10 years forced labor over corruption charges. Matata Ponyo, who now leads the opposition leadership and governance for Development Party, LGD, was found guilty of embezzlement of about $245 million of public funds by the Congolese Constitutional Court. Another person also found guilty of embezzlement is a former governor of DRC Central Bank, Deogratias Mutombo, who also received 5 years forced labor sentence. Both men have now been barred from public service for 5 years from the end of their forced labor sentence. The ruling brings an end to a 4-year intense legal battle, which has been described as a political case by lawyers of Matata. And finally, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa hopes his meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday will salvage a deteriorating diplomatic relationship. Before the meeting, Ramaphosa said he was looking forward to a positive meeting which will normalize relations between the two countries.
We're looking forward to a very good outcome for our country, for our people, for the jobs in our country, and good trade relations, and to normalize relations between our two countries. We want to come out of the United States with a really good trade deal, investment promotion.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has hinted that Donald Trump will not join the meeting of the Group of 20 G20 summit happening in South Africa later in November. Speaking during a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing, the U.S. Secretary of State said, "We chose not to participate in this year's G20 hosted by South Africa, either at the foreign ministers level or the president's level." He accused South Africa of having consistently voted against America's interest. Why does this matter? This is coming at a time when the U.S. is expected to assume the G20 presidency next year. Analysts warn that a G20 without the U.S. will mean member countries will struggle to sustain broader representation and multilateral cooperation. And that'll be all for today. Don't forget to leave a comment and do share, like, and subscribe to our channel, DW Africa. I am Ajua Domina.